Hey everyone, and welcome. For decades, we in the West have been hearing that China's economy is on the verge of collapse, and yet, it keeps surprising us. So today, we're going to crack open economist Keyu Jin's fantastic book, The New China Playbook, to figure out the unique rules that make this incredibly complex economy tick.
And this really is the central question, isn't it? We see the headlines about ghost cities or trade wars, and it's easy to think the whole system is about to fall apart. But what if we're not just misreading the signs? What if we've been trying to read a completely different book all along?
And there it is. That's the core idea. Jin's argument is that China isn't trying to become the next America or a European-style economy. Nope. It's built this unique, hybrid model, mashing together forces that to us look totally contradictory. So to get it, we really have to throw out our old assumptions and learn their new rules.
All right, so let's jump into our first section, the China puzzle. This is all about tearing down those old narratives and trying to see the system from the inside out.
This quote really sets the stage perfectly. The point of this whole exercise isn't to judge the system, but to actually decode it. The book wants to show us how all of China's apparent contradictions, well, they're actually features, not bugs, of its powerful economic engine.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. I mean, how can a country have incredibly tight, top-down political control and hyper-competitive, decentralized local economies? How can you have a huge state-run sector right alongside some of the most innovative private companies in the world? Well, Jin says these aren't contradictions at all. They're the very pillars of the playbook.
Which brings us to Section 2, and one of the most powerful ideas in the whole book for understanding how this works, something called the mayor economy. This is absolutely key to unlocking that first paradox we talked about, central control and local fire.
So, here's how it works. Picture this. What if a city mayor's entire career, their promotions, their power, depended almost entirely on hitting crazy ambitious GDP targets? Well, in China, that's pretty much the reality. The system basically turns local officials into these fierce competitors, all scrambling to attract investment and grow their local economy faster than the guy in the next province.
And this cycle just lays it out so clearly. The central government in Beijing sets the goal, and then it unleashes this massive internal tournament among local leaders. It's a super high-stakes game where winning means a big promotion up the party ladder. And you can bet that creates an incredible incentive for fast, on-the-ground economic action. But, and the book is really clear about this engine has a dark side. The very same system that can build thousands of miles of high-speed rail in record time also leads to those ghost cities, mountains of local debt, and, way too often, a total disregard for the environment. It's a powerful tool, for sure, but it can be a really blunt one. So if the mayors are the local drivers, what about the companies themselves? This brings us to Section 3, where Jin uses his brilliant metaphor to explain China's corporate world. It's part paradise and part jungle.
This table just nails it. You've got the state-owned enterprises, the SOEs, living in this protected paradise. Their main goal isn't always profit, it's to execute the state's big strategic plans. Think huge projects in aerospace or energy. Then you have the private companies, fighting for their lives in a hyper-competitive jungle. This forces them to be incredibly adaptable and innovative, especially in areas like consumer tech.
And make no mistake, the state is not just sitting on the sidelines here. It's got this huge toolkit of levers it can pull to steer the economy. It decides who gets into the market, who gets cheap loans, and who gets to go public. And for really critical technologies like semiconductors, it uses a whole-of-a-nation strategy, pouring immense resources into a single goal. It's a very hands-on, paternalistic approach that's all about maintaining ultimate control.
Okay, let's switch gears, because this next part is a huge piece of the puzzle. Section 4 looks at the massive force changing China from the inside out, its new generation of consumers. This is a critical part of the new playbook.
For decades, the stereotype of the Chinese consumer was someone who saved every penny. But the folks born after 1980, the first generation that grew up without any memory of real poverty, they have a totally different set of values. They're all about lifestyle, experiences, and, well, spending money.
And just look at this number to see their impact. 65%. Let that sink in for a second. According to the book, that's how much of China's consumption growth is being driven by this post-80s generation. They are literally the engine of China's big pivot toward a consumer-led economy.
And what's happening here isn't just about shopping. There's a profound social transformation going on too. The book points to the incredible rise of women in the economy. For women born in the 90s, the share of leadership roles in public companies jumps to 42%. That is a radical shift from their parents' generation.
But yeah, there's a catch to all this spending. This new generation is taking on debt 2.5 times faster than their parents did. And while that's fueling all this amazing growth, it's also creating new financial risks in a system that, for a long time, was built on the foundation of high savings.
And this chart is a fantastic snapshot of how the mindset has evolved. You go from the older generations who valued security and owning a home above all else, to the consumerist post-80s, the nationalistic and confident post-90s, and the super-patriotic post-2000s generation. Each group has a different worldview that's shaping the future of the country.
Okay, so after all that, where is this all headed? Our final section looks at China's next chapter and the new goals that are shaping its playbook for the future.
You can really see the evolution laid out here on this timeline. The first phase was all about becoming the world's factory. The next phase was about building up its own tech industry. But now the focus is really shifting inward toward big ideas like common prosperity, this push to reduce inequality, plus tech self-reliance and greener growth.
So in other words, the old playbook of growth at all costs is being rewritten. The government's signaling a huge shift. The new priorities are about quality over quantity, stability over speed, and national security, especially in tech, over just being plugged into the global system.
And this quote just gets right to the heart of the challenge. The goal isn't to copy the West. It's about trying to forge this completely unique path that balances the raw energy of the market with the socialist goal of a more equal society. It's a massive, untested experiment. So, at the end of the day, the biggest takeaway from the book is this. If you want to understand China's future, you have to stop looking for signs that it's about to collapse or that it's becoming just like us. Instead, we have to understand that it's charting its own course, based on its own unique history, its own paradoxes, and its own ambitions.
And so, that leaves us with the billion-dollar question, doesn't it? This whole model relies on a really delicate balance. Can the state keep guiding and controlling the economy without accidentally crushing the very entrepreneurial spirit that made it so successful in the first place? That is the central tension, and honestly, the answer is going to define not just China's future, but all of ours.